The truth about Sodom and Gomorrah, the capital of evil. Destroyed by God in a hail of fire and brimstone, one of the most terrifying and apocalyptic chapters in the Bible. The story has such deep meanings that it leads us to the birth of King David. Sodom and Gomorrah story is a familiar one, although it is often misunderstood. These two cities were actually part of a larger collective known as the cities of the plain located near the Jordan River in ancient times. It included 5 cities in total. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah is an important yet often overlooked part of the story surrounding the cities of the plain. It serves as a reminder of the greater narrative that binds them together. Sodom was a rich and prosperous city despite its wealth. The people of Sodom were wicked and immoral. They turned their backs on God and engaged in all manner of sinful behavior. They were greedy, selfish, and arrogant. They oppressed the poor and mistreated strangers. God saw all the evil that was being done in Sodom and decided to send 2 angels to see for themselves if the reports were true. Story of Abraham and Lot starts with Terah and his family, including Abraham and Lot, traveling from Ur to Haran. God calls Abraham to leave his country and go to a land that he will show him. Abraham obeyed and took Lot with him to settle in Shechem. Due to a famine, they briefly went to Egypt and returned to Canaan, where they had arguments over grazing lands for their livestock. Abraham and Lot agreed to part ways, with Lot choosing to live near Sodom and Gomorrah because of its rich pasturelands. Unfortunately, the wickedness of Sodom was great, and Lot was captured in a battle. Abraham was a man of faith and obedience. He made a covenant with God and was determined to keep the covenant after all the hardships he went through. The figure of Abraham is important in the Bible. But in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, it is just as important because the angels appeared before him to judge the city. Abraham was amazed by the message and begged God on behalf of the city. He asked God for mercy on the city and said that despite their behavior and crimes there are righteous people in the city. Genesis 18 verse 20. Then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin so grievous." God appeared before Abraham, accompanied by 2 angels dressed in human form, 3 days after the ritual circumcision. Abraham was 90 years old when they informed him of 2 messages. First, Sarah will bear him a son. And the second, God intends to destroy the city of Sodom due to its great crimes. Genesis 18 verse 32. Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there?" He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." Abraham pleaded with him and said that there are righteous people in Sodom. In response, God answered him that if 10 righteous people came out, he would bless the city. After the conversation with Abraham, the angels continued to the city to judge and examine their actions. In Sodom, the angels meet Lot, Abraham's nephew. He hosts them with beautiful hospitality. According to the best tradition of the Abraham family, but the rumor is widespread in the city that Lot did something that should not be done and welcomed the guests to his home. The people of Sodom are angry and gather outside Lot's house and demand that he removes the guests to abuse them. He tries to calm them down, but without much success. The angels let him into the house and blindly beat everyone gathered outside the house. "Take all your sons and daughters out of the city," the angels say to Lot, "and tell him about the destruction that is about to be unleashed on the city in a few hours." Lot's sons-in-law laughed at the angels' warnings about the disaster of the battle and voluntarily stayed inside the city together with their wives and sons. Whereas Lot, his wife and their 2 unmarried daughters who lived in their house, the angels took them out of the city by force after they hesitated and did not run away of their own accord. Outside the city, the angels ordered them to flee for their lives from the valley to the mountain without looking back. With the consent of the angels, Lot and his wife and their daughters fled towards the city of Zoar, and thus their lives were saved. But then a very interesting and strange thing happens. Lot's wife looks back, contrary to the angel's warning, and becomes a salt commissioner, meaning a mound of salt. Who was Lot's wife? Lot's wife, whose name was Irid, was the daughter of a local family of the people of Sodom. Unlike her husband Lot, Irid's behavior was corrupt and cruel like the other residents of the place. Even when Lot risked his life and begged the angels to stay in his house, he alone took care of their needs and did not receive any assistance from his wife, who viewed the act of hospitality with an evil eye, since according to the laws of Sodom and Gomorrah, any act of kindness and helping others is considered a serious crime. What was Lot's wife looking at? When reading the verses of the Bible, it is not clear the reason why Lot and his family were forbidden to look back and what caused Lot's wife to disobey this warning. In the commentary, there are different explanations for these questions. One of them sees the angel's warning not to look back as a requirement to emotionally detach from the property and assets they left behind. Lot's wife did not heed the angel's warning, and while escaping from the revolution continued to take care of her lost property. Why did she turn into salt? There are opinions that she became a pillar of salt because she sinned with salt. When Lot entertained the angels in their home, he asked his wife to bring them some salt. Instead of cooperating with her husband's hospitality, she got smart and used his request to gossip to the townspeople about the serious sin committed in her home. God rains fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah and destroys all its inhabitants. Lot's wife can't help it, looks back, and turns into a sailor. Genesis 19 verse 17. As soon as they were taken out, one of them said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Run to the mountains or you will be swept away." This, according to the accepted interpretation, was her punishment for having incited the angels, or not believing their words about the overthrow of Sodom. Genesis 19 verses 33 to 36. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight. And you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. His daughters were desperate to preserve their family line. As a result of their actions, Lot's two daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son and she named him Moab. According to the Bible, he was the father of the Moabites of that time. The younger daughter also had a son and she named him Ben-Ami. He was the father of the Ammonites. These events are recorded in the Bible in. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. Zoar isn't just known for being the city that survived. It also plays a part in the unsettling tale of Lot's daughters who sleep with their old man in order to continue his line. This resulted in the founding of two dynasties, the Moabites and the Ammonites, which had a significant impact on the future of the Bible. King David was a descendant of Ruth, a Moabite woman. If the Moabites had not existed due to Lot's daughters not bearing children with him, then there would be no Ruth, and no King David or Solomon. This lineage was significant in the history of the Israelites and the Bible. So there you have it, the truth about Sodom and Gomorrah, and the larger group of cities they belonged to. From the survival of Zoar to the strange tale of Lot's daughters, there's much more to this story than meets the eye.